Surds. A surd is a type of irrational number, i.e. a number which cannot be expressed as a fraction and hence cannot be expressed as a terminating decimal, cannot be expressed as a recurring decimal. You will have met another number like this, pi. When you met pi, you were probably told it was an irrational number, and it means the same thing. Pi cannot be expressed as a fraction, a terminating decimal, or a recurring decimal. Basically, a surd is the square root of a number that is not a perfect square. Now we know the perfect squares, 1, 4, 9, 16 and so on. So root 2, root 3, not root 4 because we know that that's 2, root 5, root 6, root 7 and so on. These are all surds. It can also be a cube root of a number that's not a perfect cube. Now the cube numbers are things like 1, 8, 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27 and so on. So things like the cube root of 2, cube root of 3 and so on. These are surds. It can also be the fourth root of a number that's not a perfect fourth power and so on. However, in most courses the treatment of surds is restricted to square roots. There are some basic properties of surds. Firstly, the square root of a is always greater than or equal to 0, so the square root of a number cannot be negative. The square root of a is a real number, and that will be explained in later courses really, only if the number a itself is non-negative. The square root of a multiplied by the square root of b is the square root of a times b, and very similarly, the square root of a divided by the square root of b is equal to the square root of a divided by b. These two are important, and you're going to use those in quite a number of questions. Write as a single surd or rational number. Now the first one we have here is root 5 times root 5. Now we just discussed that root a multiplied by root b is equal to the root of a multiplied by b. So this would be the square root of 5 multiplied by 5, which is the square root of 25, which is 5. Now we should have got this without the intermediate steps, because the very definition of the square root of 5 is that when you multiply it by itself, you get 5. Here we have root 5 times root 2, so that would be the square root of 5 multiplied by 2, which is the square root of 10. And there's nothing more that we can do with that. Here we have the square root of 32 divided by the square root of 2. Now we discussed that the square root of a divided by the square root of b is the square root of a divided by b. So this would be 32 divided by 2 in here, giving us the square root of 16, which of course is 4.